On the distant world of Kaldora, a civilization of advanced, warrior-like beings known as the Virdathi ruled over the galaxy with an iron fist. Their empire stretched across countless star systems, and their monarchy was absolute. At the heart of this empire was Queen Araselle, a ruler as cunning as she was ruthless, her power unrivaled among her people. Her warriors were renowned across the cosmos for their unmatched strength and discipline, making them the terror of every enemy they encountered. Araselle's reign, however, was not without its challenges. The Virdathi had recently encountered a race that threatened the very foundation of their empire: humans. For all their technological advancements and martial prowess, the Virdathi had underestimated the tenacity and ingenuity of humanity. It was not long before humans became a growing force to be reckoned with, spreading their influence and disrupting the carefully laid plans of the Virdathi. In a private council room, the queen stood before her most trusted general, Captain Zorath. He was a hulking figure, his body covered in thick silver armor, his eyes sharp and calculating. The tension in the room was palpable, as the queen's regal voice broke the silence. "Zorath," she began, her tone cold, "the humans have become a nuisance. Their tenacity is both impressive and irritating. I want them broken, but I will not send a fleet into battle until I know their weakness." Zorath bowed deeply. "And what do you propose, my queen?" "I want you to humiliate them. Find a human warrior, challenge him to single combat. Let the humans see their champion fall. If you win, their morale will crumble. If you lose, well, that will have consequences. You will marry the human." Zorath stiffened, a flicker of surprise crossing his features before he masked it. "Marry him, my queen. Surely you jest." Araselle's eyes gleamed with mischief. "You may consider it a strategic alliance. You are my most trusted warrior, Zorath. If you cannot defeat a mere human, I will have no use for you. Your loyalty will be questioned. And if that happens, I will marry the human. This will put an end to the Virdathi's war with them, by integrating them into our empire." Zorath bowed again, determination setting in. "I will not fail you, my queen. This human will be no match for me." Middle. The news of the queen's challenge spread quickly throughout the Virdathi capital, creating an electric buzz of excitement and anticipation. A human warrior was to face the queen's most formidable general in a duel to the death. It was unheard of, a clash between two races at the peak of their power, and it would be broadcasted throughout the empire as a spectacle. For the humans, this was a test of survival. For the Virdathi, it was a test of superiority. Among the humans, there was one warrior who stood above the rest. His name was Captain Elias Voss, a man who had fought in countless battles and survived insurmountable odds. His reputation had spread far and wide, and he was known as the Iron Wolf for his brutal and efficient tactics. He had defeated enemy generals, led troops to victory in impossible situations, and most importantly, he had never been defeated. Voss was chosen to represent humanity in the duel, though he knew the risks. He had heard of the Virdathi's strength and their advanced technology, but what concerned him more was the queen herself. The Virdathi were a people of honor, but their pride was as sharp as their weapons. The queen's orders would not be taken lightly, and losing meant not just death, but something far worse, marriage to her. The day of the duel arrived, and the arena was packed with spectators from all over the galaxy. The human, Elias Voss, stood at one end, his eyes fixed on his opponent, Zorath, the Virdathi general. His armor gleamed in the harsh lights of the arena, and his sword was a weapon of lethal elegance. The Virdathi warrior stood motionless, a silent giant, his battle axe at the ready. The queen sat upon her throne, watching with a smirk on her face, confident that her warrior would crush the human in seconds. But something in her heart stirred as she observed the human, his stoic demeanor betraying no fear. She could sense the intensity in him, the unyielding will to win. She had underestimated humanity, but she would not allow herself to be swayed. The duel began. Zorath was the first to strike, his axe sweeping through the air with terrifying speed. Voss parried the blow with ease, his movements swift and precise. The crowd gasped as the human held his ground, refusing to yield an inch. Zorath swung again, this time aiming for Voss's midsection, but the human dodged, the force of the blow creating a shockwave that sent dust and debris flying into the air. The fight raged on for what seemed like hours, both warriors exchanging brutal blows, neither giving an inch. Zorath's strength was unmatched, his every strike a deadly force of nature. But Voss's agility and tactical mind were his greatest assets. He knew when to attack, when to retreat, and how to use his opponent's overconfidence against him. As the duel continued, Zorath began to show signs of fatigue. His swings grew slower, his movements more erratic. Voss, on the other hand, remained focused, his breath steady. He could see the Virdathi warrior's weakness now. The longer the fight went on, the more Zorath relied on raw power instead of strategy, and it was beginning to cost him. In a decisive moment, Voss feigned a retreat, baiting Zorath into a reckless charge. The Virdathi general took the bait, lunging forward with a battle cry. Voss sidestepped at the last moment, and with a swift, precise strike, he drove his sword into Zorath's side. The general staggered, his breath coming in ragged gasps, but before he could recover, Voss delivered the final blow, sending him crashing to the ground. The arena fell silent. Zorath lay motionless, his weapon discarded beside him, defeated by a human. The crowd stared in disbelief, the impossible having just occurred before their eyes. The Virdathi warrior, who had been thought to be invincible, was now on the ground, humbled and broken. Ending. The queen's eyes burned with fury as she watched the defeat of her champion. She had expected the human to fall, but now her own pride had been shattered. She stood from her throne, her expression one of cold rage. This was a humiliation beyond measure, a challenge that no Virdathi could ignore. Voss stood tall in the center of the arena, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. He had won, but there was no joy in his victory. He had been forced into this fight to protect his people, and now he was left to face the consequences of his success. Queen Araselle descended from her throne, her eyes locked on Voss with a mix of admiration and disdain. "You have defeated my champion," she said, her voice laced with both respect and venom. "But you have not won yet. By the laws of the Virdathi, your victory means that you must claim your reward." Voss met her gaze, unwavering. "And what is this reward, your highness?" "You will marry me," she replied coldly, her tone devoid of any warmth. "It is the price of your victory. The humans will now be integrated into our empire, and we will rule side by side." Voss's expression remained unchanged. "If that's the price of saving my people," he said firmly, "then I will pay it." And so, the queen, humiliated by her own defeat, was forced to marry the human warrior who had bested her champion. The Virdathi Empire would never be the same again.